Have you ever reflected on what light truly symbolizes in the Bible? From the moment God said, "Let there be light," it has represented spiritual guidance, divine presence, and hope amidst darkness. And over the centuries, this light has found expression in the simple yet powerful flame of a candle. In this video, we'll explore the true significance of candles in Christian faith, from the scriptures to their spiritual application. Get ready to uncover how something so small can carry such profound truths. And don't forget, like this video and share this message to spread the light. In the beginning, when darkness hovered over the face of the deep, God said, "Let there be light." This command not only initiated time and space as we know it, but also established an eternal symbol of divine presence. Light, often represented by a simple candle flame, carries profound meaning in biblical tradition. From its earliest mentions in the scriptures, light is synonymous with spiritual guidance, revealing the right path amidst darkness. Who hasn't, in moments of uncertainty, sought a spark of hope to move forward? That spark is the essence of the candle's symbolism. But did you know it goes far beyond physical illumination? In the Bible, the light of a candle is often associated with sacred fire, a presence that purifies and connects humanity to the divine. Think of the altar in the tabernacle, where oil lamps burned continuously, symbolizing God's constant watch over His people. This flame wasn't merely functional, it was a reminder that even during times of exile and difficulty, the divine light never extinguishes. And here's the point, in today's world, the flame of a candle is often underestimated, seen only as decorative or superstitious. This is precisely where the call to rediscover its true spiritual significance arises. Have you ever paused to consider how something as small as a candle can carry such depth? It is used in prayers to symbolize spiritual protection, a request for guidance, or even an act of biblical purification. Yet, as in the Bible, the fire that illuminates can also consume. This duality challenges us to see candles not just as physical objects but as representations of spiritual transformation. What are you seeking to illuminate in your life? Is there something hidden in the shadows that needs to be brought to light? Challenges arise when we forget the purpose of simple things. Many popular traditions corrupt the pure symbolism of candles, using them for superstitions or practices that stray from true biblical teachings. This is not new. The Bible frequently warns against deviating from divine essence. But here's the crisis: how can we discern the legitimate use of candles in our spiritual lives? That's where the challenge of returning to the scriptures and seeking guidance from their timeless message comes in. And what's the reward? Discovering that the light of a candle can be a powerful ally in your faith. It transforms spaces, bringing peace and a sense of connection with God. Lighting a candle during prayer is not an empty ritual but an act of spiritual hope reflecting divine presence amid darkness. Light, after all, was the first thing God created, and it remains a reminder that faith can illuminate even the darkest paths. So, the next time you observe the flickering flame of a candle, remember it's more than just a source of light. It's a symbol of faith and renewal, an invitation to connect with God. From the very first moment of creation, when God pronounced the command that would echo throughout eternity, "Let there be light," light took on a central role in the scriptures. It didn't just separate chaos from darkness but became an eternal symbol of spiritual guidance. The biblical narrative is filled with moments where light stands out as a manifestation of divine presence. Yet, have you ever stopped to think about how these references shape our understanding of faith? This is where we embark on a journey through the sacred texts, from Genesis to Revelation, uncovering the spiritual and symbolic impact of light in the lives of those who choose to walk with God. In Moses' tabernacle, for example, the continuously burning lamps symbolized God's vigilance over the people of Israel. The light wasn't merely functional, it represented communion with God and the need to keep the flame of faith alive. This concept resonates centuries later in the book of Revelation, where the light of the New Jerusalem doesn't come from lamps or candles but directly from God's glory. It's fascinating to see how these references connect, linking the Old and New Testaments in a message of hope and redemption. But what does this mean for us today? Just as candles illuminate physical spaces, God's light illuminates our spiritual paths. This is why many people light candles during prayer as a symbolic act of connection. However, it's essential to remember that this gesture holds meaning only when understood in its biblical context. A candle is not just wax and wick, it's a tangible reminder that we are called to reflect Christ's light in the world. Have you considered what this means for your own life? Challenges arise when we face the shadows, whether they are doubts, fears, or spiritual struggles. Just as the prophets endured times of darkness, we too are called to seek divine light in moments of crisis. When Jesus declared, "I am the light of the world," he gave us the key to overcoming these adversities. But here's the question: are we letting this light shine within us, or are we allowing the world's darkness to obscure the purpose God has placed in our lives? The reward for turning to the Scriptures is rediscovering the transformative role of light. The Bible isn't just a historical record, it's a living guide that illuminates our spiritual journey. Revisiting passages like the pillar of fire that led the Israelites in the desert or John's visions in Patmos reminds us that God's light never fails. It is this light that gives us strength to face challenges and reconnects us with divine presence, even in the most difficult moments. So, every time you see a candle burning, remember, it's a physical representation of spiritual truths that transcend time. Let this message illuminate your life and guide your next steps. Since ancient times, the light of a candle has been more than a simple human invention to ward off darkness. In a spiritual context, it becomes a tool for connection with the divine, protection, and purification. In the Bible, this practice is deeply rooted in passages that highlight light as a symbol of God's presence. But what is the true meaning of lighting a candle in moments of prayer? It's about creating a sacred space where the flame symbolizes not just physical illumination but also the inner light reflecting faith and spiritual hope. Throughout Christian history, candles have been used in rituals and moments of introspection to mark divine presence in our spiritual journey. Imagine yourself in a silent environment where the only light comes from a flickering candle, bringing a sense of peace and comfort. This simple act can symbolize a plea for spiritual protection or a request for guidance during uncertain times. But here's the question: do we truly understand the depth of this gesture, or do we often see it merely as a tradition? The flame of a candle also carries the power of biblical purification. Just as fire was used in the Old Testament to purify sacred utensils and prepare offerings to God, the light of a candle symbolizes the desire to purify our souls and minds. When we kneel in prayer and light a candle, we externalize this longing to be renewed by God's presence. Have you ever experienced moments when the flame seemed to represent exactly what your heart was seeking? However, like any symbol, the use of candles also faces challenges. Many fall into the trap of superstition, attributing power to the candle itself rather than to God. Here's the point of crisis: when we stray from the spiritual purpose and indulge in practices without biblical grounding, we risk losing the essence of what lighting a candle truly means as an act of faith. God doesn't call us to empty rituals but to genuine connection with Him. The reward for understanding the true use of candles is a sense of closeness to God. Every flame lit in prayer represents an act of faith, a surrender of our desires, concerns, and hopes into His hands. This is why, when lighting a candle, we should do so with an open heart and in alignment with biblical principles. It's not just a symbolic act, it's a transformative experience that can profoundly impact our spiritual walk. Not everything that shines is true light. Throughout the Scriptures, God teaches us to discern between what is sacred and what is profane, between what guides us to His presence and what leads us astray. Candles, often associated with faith and spirituality, are not immune to misinterpretation or misuse. How often do objects meant to draw us closer to God end up being used superstitiously or outside their biblical context? This is a warning that echoes through time. When a symbol is separated from its purpose, it becomes empty. In the Bible, we see clear examples of practices that led God's people astray, often involving rituals and elements that had no foundation in spiritual truth. The problem never lay with the object itself, but with the hearts of those who used it. The same applies to candles. When used with the correct intention, they serve as a powerful reminder of divine light. But when transformed into talismans or used superstitiously, they lose their spiritual purpose entirely. Have you ever stopped to reflect on how small actions can alter the essence of a faith-filled act? The crisis arises when we forget that God doesn't seek rituals but a contrite and sincere heart. In Isaiah, He declares, "What are your sacrifices to me?" A call to turn away from external practices devoid of spiritual foundation. lighting a candle in prayer is not a magical act but a symbol of surrender and trust. However, if we attribute power to the candle itself, we replace faith in God with misplaced dependence. This is something we must constantly evaluate in our spiritual lives. But it's not just about warnings. There's also a reward for those who understand and apply the legitimate use of candles within a biblical context. When we dedicate our practices to God, the simple act of lighting a candle becomes a profound experience of spiritual connection. At that moment, the flame reflects the light of Christ, illuminating our thoughts and bringing clarity to what seemed dark. There's no superstition here, only authentic faith and a heart aligned with God's will. Just as fire purifies and illuminates, the proper use of candles transforms spaces and moments into occasions of true communion with God. That's what this is about, separating the essential from the superfluous, the spiritual from the superstitious. So now, I ask you, how do you perceive candles in your faith journey? Is it time to revisit the scriptures and reevaluate your practice? A flickering flame, small and seemingly insignificant, has the power to transform not only a space but also the human heart. Since biblical times, light has been a symbol of hope, faith, and God's constant presence. Have you noticed how even on the darkest nights, a single candle can completely change the atmosphere? This transformation goes beyond the physical, it reaches our soul, reminding us of God's promise that light will always overcome darkness. Throughout the Bible, God uses light as a metaphor for His power, protection, and love. In the book of Revelation, it's described that in the New Jerusalem, there will be no need for the sun or moon because God's glory will be the light that illuminates everything. This is the spiritual impact that the light of a candle represents in our lives, a tangible reminder that God is present, guiding and protecting us. The question is, are we allowing this light to shine in our moments of doubt and tribulation? The flame of a candle also reflects the power of transformation. During prayer, it creates an atmosphere of peace, introspection, and communion with the divine. But the spiritual impact goes beyond what's visible. When we light a candle, we're, in a way, inviting God's presence into that space, whether seeking protection, purification, or guidance. It's an opportunity to pause and reflect, what is God illuminating in my life right now? Trials come when we let the shadows of doubt and despair obscure our spiritual vision. But it's precisely in those moments that God's light becomes most evident. Just as a lit candle appears brighter in a dark room, God's presence stands out amid challenges. And here's the point, light wasn't given to us just for comfort but for transformation, to renew our faith and give us the strength to move forward. The reward for understanding the spiritual impact of light is immense. Every candle lit in prayer is a testimony that darkness will never have the final word. It's an act of faith reflecting our spiritual hope and trust in God's faithfulness. By incorporating this practice into our daily lives, we not only transform the spaces around us but also renew our connection with the Creator. So, the next time you light a candle, take a moment. Observe the flame and allow yourself to feel the spiritual impact it can bring. Let that light be a constant reminder that God is always present, illuminating your path. The light of a candle reminds us that God is always present, guiding our path and renewing our faith. May this message inspire you to live this truth in your daily life. If this video has brought something special to your life, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. And we'd love to hear from you. What does this flame represent to you? Share your thoughts in the comments, they might illuminate someone else's journey.